I came home 16 days early and walked into the duplex at 12:07 on a Thursday night, a duffel bag hanging off one shoulder, river country grit still worked into the laces of my boots, and the dumb hope that for once I might get to be the one doing the surprising, instead of the one getting surprised. The living room was black. The kitchen light was on. My bedroom door stood open, and that was the first thing that made me stop cold. I am Levi Hartman, 31 years old, an Army combat engineer, and I had just spent 7 months sleeping so light that a wrong breath in the wrong direction could pull me up out of it. So when I heard someone moving around inside my bedroom, my whole body went still before my brain caught up to why. Then I heard her voice. No, 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 Callie whispered. This looks completely unhinged. Callie Monroe was my roommate, my emergency contact, and the little sister of the best friend I ever lost. She was 27, worked overnight as a veterinary emergency tech, and had one of those faces that made total strangers confess things to her in the checkout line. She also had a mouth quick enough to strip a bolt, which I respected because in my line of work, strip bolts had ended more than one bad night. I should have called out. A grown man would have said, "Hey, it's just me." Instead, I moved down the hall like a raccoon who had somehow completed basic training. My bedroom looked nothing like the room I had left. The bed was made up in clean gray sheets. A small lamp glowed on the nightstand. My beat-up ball cap sat on the dresser, like she had dusted a careful circle around it. A stack of envelopes lay across the comforter, each one marked with a date from the last 7 months. And Callie stood in the middle of all of it, wearing my faded Army hoodie, her hair knotted up loose, one sock sliding halfway off her heel. She had one hand clamped over her mouth. In the other, she held a folded letter. I said, "Please tell me you are not out here selling my identity for parts." She spun so fast her hip cracked into the dresser. The letter slipped out of her fingers. Her eyes went huge. For one long second, neither of us moved a muscle. Then she said, very quietly, "You weren't supposed to see this." Now, I had heard those exact words in a lot of bad places. Usually they came with blood, or a missing crate of charges, or a lieutenant working out how to explain why there was a stray dog asleep in a government truck. But coming from Callie in my bedroom, wearing my hoodie like it had always been hers, those words did something worse than scare me. They made my heart trip over its own feet. I set the duffel down by the door. "I came home early," I said. "I can see that," she said. "And I see you're in my room. I see that too. And you're wearing my hoodie." She looked down at it like the hoodie had personally sold her out. "It gets cold in here at night," she said. "It's July. The unit is aggressive." Callie, we stood there, both of us pretending this was an ordinary roommate exchange, and not the exact kind of moment people wreck by saying either far too much or nowhere near enough. She started scooping the letters up too fast. "You should have texted me," she said. "I wanted to surprise you." "Well," she glanced around the glowing room, her cheeks going pink. "Congratulations." I could not help the smile. Her eyes cut to my mouth, then away, and that one small flick landed harder than any banner strung across a driveway ever could have. Callie and I had shared this duplex for 2 years, ever since her brother Danny died, and she needed somewhere she did not have to be brave all the time, and I needed the noise of another person in the place so the quiet did not eat me. Danny had been my closest friend in the world, the kind of man who made you a better version of yourself just by standing next to you. And when he was gone, the room he left behind was the size of a country. At first, Callie and I were polite strangers splitting cabinet space in grief. Then she learned I burned toast whenever I was tired, and I learned she cried at old rescue dog videos and blamed it on the vents. She left sticky notes on the coffee maker that said things like, "Your creamer expired sometime during the last administration." I fixed her squeaking bathroom door at 2 in the morning because she swore she would name the squeak after me if I did not. Somewhere in there, the place stopped being where I store my boots and started being where I wanted to come back to, and that scared me more than any deployment ever had. The last woman I loved had mailed my ring back while I was overseas years before Danny died. No shouting, no big fight, just a small padded envelope and a note that said she could not keep waiting for a life that hit pause every time the Army called. So I taught myself not to ask much of anybody. Then Callie moved into the spare room. carrying her brother's memory and her own quiet decency, and every rule I had built for myself started coming loose at the seams. She was funny, steady, stubborn, kind in the ways that get past a man's guard before he even feels the gate open. And now she was standing in my bedroom, with 7 months of letters cradled against her chest. "What are those?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "Callie, an inventory," she said. "The paperwork has evolved." I stepped inside, slow, careful not to back her into a corner. "Were you writing to me?" I asked. She hugged the letters tighter to her chest. "That depends on how you define writing. Pen, paper, words involved, usually." "Then yes," she said. "Technically." My throat pulled tight. I looked at the stack in her arms. There had to be dozens. "You never sent them," I said. "No. Why not?" She tried to laugh, but it came out thin as paper. "Because I'm not your girlfriend, Levi. I'm your dead best friend's little sister who took his old room. There's a whole list of reasons in there somewhere." The room changed. Not loud, not like a door slamming, more like a match dragged across the strip. I looked at her standing in my hoodie with tired eyes and a stubborn chin, and every single thing I had shoved down for 7 months stood up at once inside me. "No," I said. "You're not my girlfriend." Her shoulders dropped a fraction, like she had braced for that answer and hated that it still stung. I took one step closer. "But I thought about you every single day out there," I said. She went completely still, and the words surprised both of us. I had not planned them. I was a man who planned things. I planned routes and load orders, and how much water a convoy needed to cross open country. I had not planned to come home early and confess something in my own bedroom, while my roommate held a stack of secret letters like they were evidence against her. "Don't," she said. "Don't say that just because you just got off a plane and everything feels loud and close." "It felt loud and close in February," I said. Her lips parted. "In March. In April." Her eyes shone, but she pulled up one eyebrow anyway. "May was fine, though. I was trying to be strong in May." A small laugh slipped out of her before she could stop it, and it nearly took my legs out. Then she looked away, toward the bed, toward the envelopes, toward whatever truth she had been hiding in my room the whole time I was gone. "I was going to put them away before you got back," she said. "Then make some very casual dinner. The kind that says, 'Welcome home,' strictly platonic person I absolutely did not miss in a concerning way." "What was the dinner?" I asked. "Lasagna." "That's not casual." "It was frozen. Still feels intimate." She gave me a look. "You think a frozen tray is intimate?" "I've been eating tuna out of a foil pouch for 7 months," I said. At this point, a warm carb feels like a lifelong commitment. That earned me the real smile, quick and unwilling and better than anything. I wanted to close the last of the space between us. I wanted to touch her wrist and find out whether she leaned in or stepped back. I wanted to ask why she had my room lit up soft and warm, like she had been keeping a light on for a ghost, and gotten a whole living man instead. But she looked scared, not of me, of whatever came next, so I held where I was. "Can I read one?" I asked. Her face shut like a window. "No." "Okay." That answer seemed to catch her off guard. "Okay." "They're yours," I said. "They're about me," she said. "Still yours." Something in her eyes went soft in a way I had only caught twice before. Once the morning I left for this deployment, once on a bad signal video call after a week I did not have words for, when she pretended not to notice how my hand shook around a paper cup. She set the stack down carefully on the bed. "You always do that," she said. "Do what?" "Make it hard to keep my distance." The air between us went quiet and full. Then a single letter slid off the edge of the mattress and landed face up on the floor between my boots. We both looked down. The envelope was pale blue. My name ran across the front in her neat, slanted hand. And underneath it, in smaller letters, was a line that stopped the breath in my chest. "Open this if Levi comes home and still looks at me like I'm only his roommate." For a second, I forgot how lungs worked. Callie made a small sound, half panic and half surrender, and bent to grab it. I got there first, not to take it from her. Reflex, mostly the same reflex that made me catch falling mugs and drop tools and bad ideas a half second before they hit. My fingers closed around the blue paper. Hers closed around my wrist. Everything stopped again. Her hand was warm, smaller than mine, and her thumb landed right over the pulse point that was currently giving me up like it had been paid to. "Don't," she whispered. I looked up. She was close now, close enough that I could see the faint shadows under her eyes, the small crease between her brows, the one loose strand of hair stuck to her cheek. Close enough to catch lavender detergent and coffee and something underneath that was only ever Callie. "I want to open it," I said. Her grip eased, but she did not let go. "You read the outside," she said. I did. That was already too much, Levi. She shut her eyes. "Please don't be kind right now." That one got in somewhere I had no armor for. I set the envelope carefully on the dresser beside the ball cap, unopened, and then I turned my hand over so my palm met hers. She looked down at our hands. So did I. We had touched before. Of course we had, shoulders bumping in a narrow kitchen, her cold feet shoved under my leg on movie nights because she insisted socks were foot prison, my hand at the small of her back when I edged past her in the hall, her fingers brushing mine when she passed me coffee before a dawn shift. This was different. This was a choice. "Callie," I said, quiet. "Look at me." She did. And there it was, the whole thing we had both been pretending was not living in the duplex with us. Wanting and fear and hope and 7 months of unsaid words stacked on my bed. "I don't look at you like you're only my roommate," I said. Her breath caught. I took one more step, slow enough that she could pull away if she wanted. She didn't. "If I did," I went on, "I wouldn't have watched that video you sent me 10 times over, the one of you building the dog crate while insulting the instructions." "That manual talked down to me," she said. "I watched it 9 times. Maybe 10. Her mouth twitched. "That's embarrassing for you." "I know. I made my peace with it." Her eyes softened. "You really watched it 10 times. I missed you," I said, because once a man has already stepped off the cliff, he might as well take in the view on the way down. Not the duplex. Not having someone to keep the basil alive after I killed it. "You." Her fingers slid between mine, barely any movement at all, and it almost dropped me where I stood. "I miss you too," she said low, but it filled the whole room. Then her face shifted. She glanced toward the bed, toward the letters, and pulled her hand back like she had touched a hot pan. "I need to explain before you decide I'm completely out of my mind," she said. "I build bridges for a living," I said. "My bar for out of your mind is high." She let out a shaky laugh and crossed her arms, which pulled my sleeves down over her hands. "When you left," she said, "I told myself I'd just write down the things I would have texted you. But some of it got too big for a text. So I started writing letters to send. At first. Then I got scared. Of what, I asked. That you'd read one sitting on a cot behind a wall of sandbags and figure out your roommate had gone and grown some very inconvenient feelings. For a brother's best friend, no less. I tried not to smile. She pointed a finger at me. "Do not look pleased." "I'm not." "You are aggressively pleased." "I'm respectfully wrecked." "That's not a thing." "It is tonight." She huffed, but the color came up in her cheeks again. I want to keep her right there, in that soft, nervous place, because I had almost never seen Callie Monroe uncertain about anything, except parallel parking in her own heart. But I knew her. Push too fast, and she would turn to sarcasm and smoke, and I would lose the whole night. So I sat down on the edge of the bed and left a clear space beside me. "Tell me one thing from a letter," I said. Her eyes went wide. "Absolutely not." "One line." "No." "One word." "Levi, I just told you I watched a dog crate video 10 times," I said. "Meet me halfway." She stared at me a long moment, then looked up at the ceiling like she was asking it for patience. Finally, she sat down beside me, not touching, but close. The mattress dipped under her, and somehow that dip felt more intimate than any welcome home crowd could have. She picked one envelope off the stack. The date on it read March 9th. "This one," she said, "was after you called me at 3 in the morning my time. I remember. You said you couldn't sleep." I lied. "I know." I looked at her. She kept her eyes on the envelope. "You asked me about my night," she said, "and I told you about the old golden retriever who came in at 2 with a swallowed sock, and the owner who kept insisting the dog was a strict rule follower who would never." She sounded certain. She was very certain, Callie said. "And you laughed." Her voice went quiet. "You sounded so tired, but you laughed anyway." So after we hung up, I wrote that I wished I could reach through the phone and just sit next to you until you finally fell asleep. My chest went tight. She looked like she wanted to grab the words back out of the air the second they were loose. I didn't let myself send it, she said. I wish you had, I said. Her eyes flicked to mine. I moved my hand into the space between us, palm up on the comforter. An invitation, not a demand. After a heartbeat, she laid her hand in mine. This time her fingers were steady. You should know something, she said. Okay. I'm very bad at casual. I gathered that from the secret archive on my bed. I mean it. Her voice trembled a little. If we do this, I don't want to be your almost. I don't want to be the girl you kissed because you came home and the house was too quiet. And I really don't want to be the thing that ruins whatever you and Danny were to each other. I turned to face her fully. You're not any of that, I said. You don't know that yet. I know exactly what lonely feels like, I said. I've been living in it for years. This isn't that. And Danny would have driven me off a bridge himself if I let you spend one more night thinking you were a mistake. I got a wet laugh out of her. I brushed my thumb over her knuckles. Her eyes searched mine. Then what is it? She whispered. I should have had something smooth ready, something worthy of the way she was looking at me. All I had was the truth. It's coming home, I said, and realizing I was aiming for you the whole way back. Her face came apart for half a second before she pulled it together, but I saw it, the hit and the hope both. Then a thought stops me here for a beat, because I want to say plainly what most of these stories skip. I was angry, back then, at the version of me who had spent a year deciding Callie was off limits and calling that decency. That old anger wanted target. It wanted to blame Danny for dying, or the army for the timing, or myself for the wasted months. The old me might have let out, made some bitter joke about how the universe likes its jokes cruel. So I named it sitting there on the bed, and then I set it down because none of that anger was going to help the woman holding my hand, and she was the only thing in the room that mattered. Can I? She asked. My heart slammed once. Yes. Callie kissed me first. Soft, careful, like she was testing whether the floor would hold. It held. I lifted a hand to her cheek, and she made the smallest sound against my mouth, and that was where careful ended. She kissed me again, deeper this time, her fingers curling into the front of my shirt, like she was making sure I was real. I turned into her and drew her closer, and the sleeve of my own hoodie brushed my jaw as she looped an arm around my neck. I had pictured this in weak moments, in the back of trucks, on long watches when her name sat behind my teeth and stayed there. I had not pictured that she would taste like mint tea. I had not pictured how hard I would shake when she kissed the corner of my mouth and whispered, "You're home. For good tonight," I said. "Tomorrow I'll figure out the rest." She rested her forehead against mine. That sounds almost reasonable. I'm growing. Don't overdo it, she said, and I laughed, and she smiled against my mouth. And you, watching this, tell me something before we go on. What would you have done, standing in that doorway, catching the person you loved, surrounded by a stack of letters they never meant you to read? Have you ever been the one holding the letters you were too scared to send? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear it. Because for a few minutes there was no deployment, no old wound, no unsent words, just Callie's knees against mine and her hand warm at the back of my neck. Then her phone buzzed on the dresser. Once. Twice. She ignored it. I kissed her temple. You can check it, I said. I don't want to. That might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. She groaned and reached for the phone. If it's the clinic, I'm blaming you. But when she looked at the screen, the smile slid right off her face. I felt it before I saw it. What is it? I asked. She turned the phone a little away from me on instinct, then caught herself and stopped. A text glowed there, from a number with no name attached. You should have told him before he came home. Callie went completely still. My training snapped awake cold and clean, but her hand found mine before I could stand. She held on, not hiding behind me, choosing me. Levi, she said, her voice thin but sure. There's one letter I really do need you to read. The letter she handed me was not blue. It was plain white, wrinkled soft at the corners like it had been carried around and reconsidered 100 times. Across the front, she had written only one word. Levi. No date, no little joke, no doodle in the corner like some of the others had. Callie sat close beside me, our shoulders touching, her phone lying face down between us like something sleeping I did not want to wake. "Before you read it," she said, "I need you to know I wasn't trying to trap you into anything." I looked at her. Trap me? Emotionally? "Callie," I said, "you just kissed me in my own bedroom wearing my hoodie. If this is a trap, the bait budget was generous." Her mouth twitched, but the fear stayed put in her eyes, and that sobered me. I slid my fingers through hers. "Okay," I said. "Tell me how you want me to do this." She squeezed my hand once. "Just read it." So I opened it. Her handwriting started neat at the top and went looser as it went, like the words behaved for a paragraph and then got away from her. "Levi," it read, "if I'm ever brave enough to hand you this, it means you came home and I failed at pretending. There's something I should have told you before you deployed, but you were already carrying enough, so I told myself it didn't matter. Then it mattered every single day. The night before you left, Simone told me she thought I was in love with you. I told her she was ridiculous. She said, maybe, but he looks at you like he's memorizing a map, so he can find his way back." I stopped reading. "Simone," I said. Callie's face tightened. "My sister." I knew of Simone. Older than Callie by 3 years, lived 2 towns over, worked insurance claims, handed out unasked for advice with the flat confidence of a weather alert. "She sent that text," I said. "I don't know. Maybe. The engineer in me wanted the data. The man in me wanted to know why her sister was texting riddles into the dark, past midnight. But Callie's thumb moved over my knuckles, a small nervous sweep, and I remembered what actually mattered in that room. I went back to the letter. I laughed Simone off, because that's what I do when someone gets too close to the truth. Then you woke up on the couch and asked if I was going to be okay while you were gone. Not the duplex, not the plants. Me. And I wanted to say no. I wanted to say I'd already started listening for your truck in the driveway, that I knew the sound of your keys, that I liked when you stood at the counter in those ruined old sweatpants, drinking orange juice straight from the carton, even though it's disgusting and I complained about it every time. I wanted to say that when you hugged me goodbye, I almost asked you to stay. But you couldn't stay, and I didn't want my feelings to be one more thing you had to carry across an ocean. So I wrote them down here instead. I lowered the letter slowly. Callie was not looking at me. She was staring at our hands like the answer lived there, and she was scared to read it. My throat was tight in a way no desert wind had ever managed. "You should have told me," I said. She nodded, too quick. "I know." "No," I said, and turned toward her. "I mean, I wish you had, because I would have had something real to hold on to out there, instead of talking myself out of you every night." Her eyes lifted. I kept going before fear could shut either one of us up. "I spent 7 months telling myself that missing you was just missing home," I said. "But I get a message from anybody else and be fine. I get one from you and carry it around in my pocket all day, like a kid with a secret. You never said. I thought it would be selfish," I said. "You were Danny's sister. You were grieving in the next room. Wanting you felt like the worst kind of theft." Her laugh came out soft and sad. "Look at the two of us. A matched set of noble idiots." "Speak for yourself," I said. "I'm at least a decorated idiot." She shook her head, and a tear slipped down her cheek even while she smiled. I wiped it away with my thumb. The quiet came back into the room, but this time it did not feel like dread. It felt like the pause before you step into cold water together. "Callie," I said, "look at me." She did. "I don't want almost either," I said. Her breath shook. "I don't have every answer," I went on. "My schedule's going to be a mess. There will be another deployment someday, and I hate that I can't promise you there won't. I'm still figuring out who I am when I'm not reading a blast radius or counting my guys back onto a truck. But I know I want you. Not as a maybe. Not as some deployment fever dream I'll shake off by Sunday. You." She stared at me like the words had found every bruise she owned. Then she leaned into my hand. "I want you too," she whispered. "Even when you drink out of the carton like a raccoon in gym shorts. I can change. Don't lie to me this early in the relationship." I smiled. "Relationship?" Her eyes went a little wide, like she had not meant to hand me the word. I held very still. "Is that what we're calling this?" I asked. She took a breath, then lifted her chin. Brave again. My favorite version of her, though I was starting to suspect every version of her was my favorite. "Yes," she said, "if you are." Something in my chest let go. Yes, I said. I am. Her smile broke open, relieved and bright, and I kissed her because there was no version of that moment where I didn't. This kiss was not startled like the first one. This one was sure. Her hand slid up my chest, and mine settled at her waist, careful but wanting, and she shifted closer until one knee pressed against my thigh, and the letters crinkled under us. She pulled back just far enough to murmur, "We are sitting on 7 months of my emotional instability." I'm honored. You should be concerned. I contain multitudes. She laughed into my neck, and I held her there a while. The unknown number did not matter. Simone did not matter. Nothing mattered except Callie tucked against me, her fingers tracing the seam of my sleeve like she was learning that I was really, finally home. After a while, she sighed. I should call my sister. I kissed her hair. Do you want me here for it? Yes. No hesitation. Then, softer, not because I'm scared, because I don't feel like letting go of your hand yet. I gave her my hand. Then, don't. She picked up her phone and called Simone. It rang 5 times and went to voicemail. She frowned and tried again. Voicemail. She always answers me, Callie said. Could be asleep, I said. She sent a horror movie text and rolled over, Callie said. Maybe she's dramatic and fully committed. That earned me an elbow, gentle enough to count as affection. Then Callie's phone buzzed again, and this time it was a photo. The image loaded slow. It showed our duplex from across the street at night. My bedroom window was lit. Under the photo was another message. Tell Levi to check the bottom drawer. Callie's fingers went cold in mine. I looked at the dresser. The bottom drawer, I said. My bottom drawer? It was the one where I kept old notebooks, a couple of spare service ribbons, socks, things I had not touched since before I left. I stood up, and Callie stood with me, still holding on. Wait, she said. I looked back at her. She stepped in front of me, rose up on her toes, and kissed me once. Firm, deliberate. A claim, not a distraction. When she came back down, her eyes were frightened but clear. Whatever this is, she said, we do not let it steal what we just said in here. I cupped the side of her face. No chance. Promise me. I promise. Only then did she nod toward the dresser. Together, hand in hand, we opened the bottom drawer. Inside sat a shoebox I did not recognize. White lid, a red ribbon around it. A sticky note stuck to the top in Callie's handwriting. For when he comes home. Callie made a strangled little sound. I looked at her. Please tell me this is not a bomb. It's worse, she said. Worse than a bomb. It's sentimental. I stared at the box, then at her. You had contraband feelings in my sock drawer. I was going to move it before you got back. You keep saying that like I didn't catch you mid-heist. Her blush came back fast, and despite the photo and the text and the strangeness of the night, I loved that I could still put that color in her face. She reached for the box, and I caught her hand, gentle. Do I get to open it? I asked. She bit her lip. Yes, but if you laugh, I'm leaving the country. I'll miss you terribly in Canada. I was thinking Portugal. Ambitious. Her mouth curved, nervous and sweet. I lifted the lid. Inside was a collection of small things. Nothing expensive, nothing grand. A packet of the instant coffee I actually liked. A keychain shaped like a tiny tow truck, because I was always the one who came to get her when her car quit. A photo of the two of us from last Christmas, me holding a badly burned pie, her laughing so hard her eyes had shut. A folded list titled, Things Levi Has to Eat Once He Stops Pretending Field Rations Are Food. And underneath all of it, 2 tickets to a minor league ball game, dated for the coming Friday. I picked them up. You hate baseball, I said. I don't hate baseball, she said. I hate 9 innings of grown men adjusting their gloves and spitting. That's a core part of the game. It's a public health concern. I smiled down at the tickets. You bought these for me. For us, she said. She swallowed. If you wanted. I thought it could be casual. Big crowd, hot dogs, low light, in case my face did something embarrassing. You planned a date. I planned a welcome home outing with romantic undertones. That's a date. Fine, she said, and crossed her arms. I planned a date. The word landed between us, warm and alive. I set the tickets carefully on the dresser and turned to her. Callie Monroe, I said. Are you asking me out? She looked terrified for 1 second, then tilted up her chin. Yes, Levi Hartman. Will you go to a baseball game with me and only explain the rules when I ask? I will. And will you promise not to call it America's pastime more than once? I can't promise miracles. Then we'll negotiate. I stepped closer. I like negotiating with you. Her eyes dropped to my mouth. You like arguing with me. Same thing, I said, just with better eye contact. She laughed, and I kissed her because the shoebox had undone me in a way no grand gesture ever could have. This woman had built a small museum of wanting me home. She had made room for me in her life before she even knew whether I would ask for the space. When our mouths met, she softened right away, her hands sliding around my waist under my jacket, and I pulled her close and felt her heart going hard against mine. For a moment, the whole world narrowed down to her breath, and her fingers gripping my shirt like she was finally done pretending. Then my phone buzzed. Not hers. Mine. We broke apart slow, and I pulled it from my pocket. Unknown number. A message sat on the screen. Asked her why she never sent the letter about Simone. Callie saw it and went pale. The warmth in the room cooled around us. I looked at her. There's a letter about Simone. She nodded once. Is it bad? No, she said, and rubbed a hand across her forehead. Complicated. Okay, I'm trying a new thing tonight, I said, where I don't assume the woman who just asked me to a ball game is secretly working against me. She let out a shaky breath. Very evolved of you. I put my phone face down beside hers on the dresser. No more messages for a minute, I said. But nothing. I took both her hands in mine. Whoever's doing this wants to drag us around by the collar of our own fear, I said. The old me would have gone straight out that door, looking for a fight to end it fast. I felt that pull, standing here. And I'm telling it no. I'm not handing this person the next 5 minutes of my night. Those minutes are yours. Her eyes searched mine. What do I get instead? The truth, I said. And possibly cold lasagna, if it still exists. It exists. Then I'm offering you romance at a very high culinary level. A tiny smile came back. Frozen lasagna by microwave light. Date 0, I said. She stared at me a long second, then squeezed my hands. Date 0. So we left the letters on the bed and the phones on the dresser and walked out to the kitchen. It should have felt ridiculous. Maybe it was ridiculous. I had been home less than an hour. Somebody was texting threats into the dark. My roommate was now my girlfriend, if we were brave enough to say the word twice. And still, standing barefoot on the kitchen tile, while Callie stabbed vent holes in a sheet of plastic film, I felt steadier than I had in months. She handed me 2 forks. We're eating straight out of the tray, she said. Classy. You get plates after the 3rd date. What happens after the 2nd? I'll let you pick the movie without vetoing it for emotional damage. That's huge. I'm a generous woman. The microwave hummed. I leaned back against the counter and watched her in my hoodie. You know I'm going to keep staring at you in that, I said. She glanced down at it. Possession is 9/10 of roommate law. Relationship law may differ. She turned toward me. Soften now. Relationship. There was again the word asking to be held. I moved closer until our socks nearly touched. Yes, I said. If you still want it once, there's no adrenaline and no creepy texting involved. I wanted it when you were 7 time zones away, she said, and all I had was bad video calls and your ugly ball cap on the dresser. It's vintage. It's tragic. It has character. It has stains with their own service records. I laughed, and she reached up and brushed her thumb along my jaw, and the teasing fell away. I want this, she said. I'm scared, but I want it. I covered her hand with mine. I'm scared too. You don't look scared. I've got one face for most feelings, I said. The mildly annoyed soldier face. Brave choice on date 0. She smiled, then stepped into me and rested her forehead on my chest, and I wrapped my arms around her. No heroics. No answers. Just holding her in the kitchen while the microwave counted down, and my heart learned the shape of something like peace. After a while, she said, the letter about Simone isn't some dark secret. Simone knew before I did. She kept telling me to stop being a coward. We fought about it the night before you left. Callie nodded against me. She said if I let you go without telling you, I'd regret it. I said you didn't need the pressure. She said maybe I was just making the decision for you, because rejection scared me more than silence did. I kissed the top of her head. Older sisters are medically known to be annoying and occasionally correct. She's going to love hearing you say that. Maybe hold off until she stops sending thriller villain texts. Callie pulled back. That's the thing, she said. This doesn't sound like her. The riddles, the photo. Simone texts like she's dictating a claim form. This is theatrical. She doesn't do theatrical. Before I could answer, the intercom by the door buzzed once, long and harsh. We both froze. Then my phone lit up again on the counter. Unknown number. Come downstairs alone, Levi. Where she finds out what Simone really did. I looked at the message. Then I looked at Callie. No, she said immediately. I almost smiled despite all of it. I had not said a word. You've got the face, she said. The mildly annoyed one. The one you make right before you decide to do something noble and stupid by yourself. I set the phone down. I'm not going downstairs alone. Her chin came up. Good. Because if you had, I was going to follow you with a fork. A tactical fork. The lasagna fork, she said. Very serious weapon. I reached for her hand. We go together. Her fingers locked into mine, like she had been waiting all night for me to say it. The intercom buzzed again. We took the stairs instead of the elevator. Old habit. Callie stayed at my side, not behind me, still in my hoodie, wearing one very determined expression. When we reached the lobby, a woman stood outside the glass door with both hands raised where we could see them. Callie stopped short. Simone. Simone Monroe looked exactly like a person who had tried to run a midnight emotional operation and lost control of the whole mission somewhere around the second act. Her dark hair was in a crooked ponytail. Her jacket was buttoned wrong by one hole. She was clutching a manila envelope to her chest like a shield. Callie yanked the door open. Are you out of your mind? Simone winced. That depends on how much you already know. Creepy texts. A photo of our building. Threats written in the third person, Simone. What is wrong with you? I panicked, Simone said. You panicked like the villain in a straight-to-streaming thriller. Simone looked at me. You must be Levi. I'm extremely confused, I said. Fair. Callie crossed her arms. Start talking. Simone let out a long breath and held out the envelope. 7 months ago, she said, I mailed in one of your letters. Callie went completely still. I felt her hand tighten in mine. You did what? She whispered. The March one, Simone said quickly. The one after he called you at 3 in the morning. You were miserable, Callie. You kept telling everyone you were fine, and then you were writing these letters and hiding them, like feelings were something to be ashamed of. I thought if he read one, maybe he'd say something first. Maybe you'd finally stop torturing yourself in that spare room. Callie's face went pale with hurt and anger at once. That was not your call to make. I know, Simone said, and her voice cracked. I know that now. It came back, I said slowly, and the pieces slid together. The letter, it got returned. Simone nodded. 10 days ago. The unit mailing address had changed while you were downrange, so it bounced. I had it sitting on my counter, and I kept meaning to tell Callie, and then you came home 16 days early, and I drove over here to finally confess, and I saw your bedroom light on from the street, and you decided a psychological thriller was the responsible next step, I said. I thought if I texted you both, you'd finally be honest with each other before I had to admit what I did. I stared at her. Why the unknown number? My phone died in the car. I used a texting app on my tablet. Callie covered her face with her free hand. I cannot believe we share a bloodline. Simone looked miserable. I'm sorry. To both of you. I really am. And here is where a lesser night would have turned mean. I had every reason to unload on this woman. She had spied on us, staged a fake threat, dragged a hard homecoming through an hour of manufactured fear. The anger was right there, familiar and available, and I felt the old pull to make her small, to win the moment with one clean, cruel line. But I looked at Callie beside me, and I understood this part was not mine to spend. So I let the anger stand up, and then I let it sit back down, and I said nothing sharp at all. Instead, I turned to Callie. Hey, I said. She looked up at me. This part is yours, I said quiet. Not mine. You get to be angry. You get to forgive her or not. Nobody in this lobby decides that for you. Something shifted in her eyes when I said it, some of the hurt loosening its grip. Then she stepped a little closer to me, just enough that our shoulders touched, and turned to face her sister on her own 2 feet. I'm angry, Callie told Simone. Really angry. You made a decision about my heart because you couldn't stand watching me be scared. That's not protecting me. That's you managing your own discomfort and calling it love. Simone's eyes filled. You're right. And if you ever pull a stunt like this again, Callie said, the creepy texts, the stage photos, any of it, I'll put you in a group chat with every night shift vet tech I know, and we will diagnose you in real time. Simone gave a wet, startled laugh. That's fair. Callie took the manila envelope out of her sister's hands. Then she leaned into me and said, for the record, we were honest with each other before your horror show ever hit its third act. Simone blinked. You were? Callie glanced up at me. Even there in the lobby, even with her sister 3 feet away, even with all the embarrassment and mess of the night around us, she smiled. Yeah, she said. We were. I squeezed her hand. She asked me to a baseball game. Simone gasped. Callie hates baseball. I know, I said. That's how I knew it was serious. Callie elbowed me, but she was smiling now, and the last of the fear had gone out of the room. Simone wiped her cheeks with the back of her wrist. So you two are. Callie looked at me. There was a question in it, but no fear this time, just a choice waiting for me to meet it. Together, I said, and answered it. Callie's smile went soft enough to take me apart. Together, she repeated. Simone pressed both hands over her heart. I love this. I love it so much. You are still in enormous trouble, Callie said. I can love it from inside the trouble, Simone said. We sent her home after making her promise to text when she got there from her own actual phone this time. Then Callie and I went back up the stairs. The duplex felt different when we came back in. Not because the mystery had vanished, but because it had shrunk down to its true size. It was not a shadow hanging over us anymore, just a mess we would clean up together the way we cleaned up everything else. In the kitchen, the lasagna had cooled into a dense red brick. Callie poked it with a fork. Date 0 may require medical intervention. I'm the closest thing to Medicare, I said. Can you save it? She asked. I studied the tray. No, she laughed, and the sound filled the whole duplex like somebody flipping every light on at once. We ate cereal instead, standing barefoot at the counter, sharing one bowl because she swore every other bowl was emotionally unavailable in the dishwasher. She fed me a bite, then went suddenly shy afterward, like the closeness had snuck up on her wearing the shape of a spoon. So I took the spoon and fed her one back, and kissed the corner of her mouth where a drop of milk had landed. Her eyes fluttered shut. That was smooth, she whispered. I've been practicing on 0 women for 7 months, I said. Impressive discipline. I was waiting for somebody. She opened her eyes. The teasing went out of them. For me, she asked. I set the bowl down and pulled her gently into my arms. For you. She rested her hands on my chest. I'm still scared, she said. Me too. You might get sent away again. I might, I said. I'll hate it. I'll hate it more. You'll still drink out of the orange juice carton. Almost certainly, I said. She laughed, but her eyes were shining. I tucked the loose strand of hair back behind her ear. But I won't ever make you guess where you stand with me, I said. Not after tonight. Her fingers curled into my shirt. Then I won't hide letters in your sock drawer instead of just saying what I mean. Seems healthier. Less mysterious, though. I've had enough mysterious for one homecoming, I said. She rose up on her toes and kissed me, slow and certain and unhurried, like a woman who finally knew exactly where she was standing. A year after that night, Callie still had the gray hoodie. She claimed it had legally transferred ownership under emotional squatters' rights, and I had learned to pick my battles, and besides, it looked better on her. We made it to that ball game. She heckled the mascot, asked exactly 2 questions about the rules, and cried when the old couple on the kiss cam kissed like a pair of teenagers. Afterward, she admitted baseball was tolerable with the right person, which I filed away as a championship victory. That fall, she framed the photo of me and the burned Christmas pie and hung it in the hall, right next to a picture of Danny, so the 3 of us were finally in the same stretch of wall. By the following spring, we were not roommates anymore. We were us. Same duplex, a different arrangement of the bedrooms, 2 toothbrushes, and 1 shared cup. Her letters lived tied in their red ribbon in a box on the shelf. Not hidden, not secret. On hard nights, she still read one out loud to me, and on some of them I wrote one back. 2 years on, I proposed on the back porch on an ordinary Tuesday. No crowd, no speech, just her brother's old wind chime going in the breeze, and Callie saying yes before I finished asking. And on quiet mornings when the light comes through the kitchen window, and Callie stands there in my hoodie, making coffee, I still get the exact feeling I had the night I came home early. Like I walked into a room I was never supposed to see and found the whole rest of my life standing in it, waiting for me to finally notice. So let me leave you with this. What would you have done if you came home early and found the person you loved holding a stack of letters they never meant you to read? And have you ever kept a letter you were too afraid to send to someone who was standing right there the whole time? Tell me your story down in the comments. If this one got to you, leave a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.